All right, let's dive into the world of strategic human resources. We're going to talk about how the best companies navigate the really tricky, often contradictory challenges of managing people to get the absolute best performance.
So when you hear HR, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's, the department that handles the hiring, the firing, and all those forms in between. But is that really the whole story? Not even close. We're here to kind of flip that idea on its head and reframe HR, not as some administrative task, but as a core strategic part of a company's success.
The magic word here is strategic. This definition, from researchers Wright and McMahon, really nails it. Strategic Human Resource Management, or SHRM for short, isn't just about managing people. It's about deploying them, on purpose, with a plan, to help the organization win. It means every single decision you make about your people is tied directly to the company's biggest goals.
Okay, so how do we make the leap from paperwork to being a strategic partner? Well, it definitely didn't happen overnight. The whole field has actually been on a pretty fascinating journey.
You can basically break down the history of SHRM research into three main phases. It all started back in the 80s with these big, abstract ideas just trying to connect HR to business strategy. Then came the 90s, the era of empirical examination where everyone was trying to prove a direct link, to show that if you do these specific HR things, your company will make more money. But lately, we've moved into a phase of critique where smart people are asking, hey, is it really that simple? Is it a straight cause and effect? And that skepticism has opened the door to a much richer, way more complex way of looking at things.
And that complexity is so important. Why? Because no company exists in a bubble. There's the world outside and the dynamics inside, and they're constantly pushing and pulling on what HR needs to do. On the outside, you have these huge forces you can't ignore. For a long time, the main way people thought about business strategy, what's called the industrial organization or IO view, was that these external factors were basically everything. The economy, the laws, the new tech, the changing workforce, the thinking was that your whole job was just to find the best position for your company within those constraints. But, and this is a huge but, strategic HR comes along and says, wait a second, what's on the inside is just as important, maybe even more so. This is the core idea of what's called the resource-based view. It argues that your company's real advantage comes from its unique internal resources, especially your people. So you have to manage unions, build a strong culture, and figure out how to align what your employees want with what the company needs. Success isn't just about reacting. It's about building something special from the inside out. So here's the real kicker. Dealing with all these forces isn't about finding one perfect silver bullet solution. It's about constantly managing a series of deep-seated tensions, or what we can call paradoxes. Now, this quote is so important because it gets right to the heart of the problem. For decades, researchers tried to solve these issues with an either-or mindset. Do we do this or do we do that? But if you're actually leading a team, you know that's not how it works. You have to do both. This both-and way of thinking is the absolute key to modern strategic HR. Let's look at the first big tension, fit versus flexibility. Fit is all about creating the perfect system for your strategy right now. Total alignment. But the problem is, in a world that changes on a dime, that perfectly fitted system can become a cage. Flexibility, on the other hand, is your ability to pivot and adapt when the world throws you a curveball. So the question is, how do you build a system that's amazing for today, but also ready for a tomorrow you can't even predict? Next up, commitment versus control. For a while, all the research celebrated commitment systems. Empower your employees, trust them, get out of their way. These were seen as way better than old-school control systems that are all about rules and watching over people's shoulders. But the truth? You need both. You absolutely need to build commitment, but you also need controls for quality, consistency, and, not breaking the law. The best companies don't pick one. They figure out how to do both really, really well.
And that leads us to our third tension, differentiation versus integration. Remember the whole war for talent? That was all about differentiation. Find your star players and give them special treatment, better pay, more opportunities. But if you push that too far, you can totally wreck your culture. Integration is the flip side. It's about creating a sense of unity, where everyone feels like they're on the same team. The real challenge is rewarding your top performers without making everybody else feel like they don't matter.
Now, I know this can sound a little academic, right? But these tensions aren't just theory. They are playing out right now in the biggest trends hitting the business world. Let's take a look. Think about hybrid work. A study projected that by 2024, a whopping 81% of companies would be using a hybrid model. This isn't just about where you work, It's a huge strategic puzzle.
Because hybrid work is the fit versus flexibility tension in real life. Companies are struggling to hold on to the fit of their old office-first culture while also giving employees the flexibility they now expect. It's a massive balancing act for sure.
Or what about diversity, equity, and inclusion? The global DEI market is on track to be worth over $15 billion by 2026. That's a massive investment from businesses all over the world.
And this trend is a perfect reflection of that differentiation versus integration paradox. A great DEI strategy has to differentiate. It has to see and value what makes every single employee unique. At the exact same time, it has to integrate everyone into one strong, inclusive culture where everybody feels like they belong.
And of course, we have to talk about AI. Generative AI is set to totally change HR from how we hire to how we manage performance. But it puts that commitment versus control tension right back in the spotlight. AI gives us these incredible tools for data-driven control and efficiency. The huge strategic question is, how do we use these amazing tools without killing the human-centric commitment that actually builds trust and gets people excited to come to work?
So when you put all of this together, it points to one really powerful idea. The old playbooks for HR just aren't going to cut it anymore. We're on the edge of a revolution in how we think about this stuff.
Get this. The very researchers who built the foundations of this field are the ones calling for a complete rethink. They're saying that today's world, with all its paradoxes and constant change, needs nothing less than a research revolution. The small, incremental steps we've been taking just won't get us where we need to be.
So, what does this revolution actually look like? Well, first, we need to study how companies manage both sides of attention at the same time, not just one or the other. Second, we have to shift our focus from just HR practices to the actual people, the human capital. Third, we have to understand flexibility not as a thing, but as a skill that develops over time. And finally, we need better ways to connect the dots all the way from one person's experience up to the company's bottom line.
Which brings us to our last thought for the day. As AI and technology automate more and more of our jobs, what's really left for us to do? Maybe, just maybe, the last true source of competitive advantage, the one thing that can't be coded, is the uniquely human wisdom to manage these messy, complicated human paradoxes. Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.